He is a three-time world champion spoken word artist, the inaugural poet released on Write Bloody Publishing, founder of Awful Good Writers, and the most toured performance poet in history. Also an actor, producer, and an original board of directors member with Youth Speak Seattle. Buddy Wakefield is published in dozens of books internationally, with work used to win multiple national, collegiate, debate, and forensics competitions. Holy shit, that's a lot of big words. In the spring of 2001, he left his position at a biomedical firm in Gig Harbor. So what the buddy, is this true? Sold or gave away everything he owned. That part is true. Moved to a small town of Honda Civic. That's a typo.
Honda Civic.
There's a town called Honda Civic.
Oh my God, John, you were missing the joke, my friend.
Dude, I've never. Oh, no, sorry. And then set out to live for a living. He has not stopped. Hey, and also, Buddy Wakefield has an amazing TEDx talk. So you got to check him out. The talk is about air. Ladies and gentlemen,
I would like for you to know that was the second take of the reading of the bio because John couldn't pronounce inaugural and it stumped him, and we had to re-stumble through the whole thing.
English is my second language. You know that, right, buddy?
I forgot.
You know what I love about Buddy is we could just turn shit on and go. I love that. No outline, no rehearsal. And the reason why I think he prefers it that way is I think it comes back to your breath, meditation, and all the stuff that you do in practice. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about meditation for people who have no idea what it is, which is probably very few. But people that don't practice it, people that think it's hokey, people that don't know the effects of it. I want to start with meditation, and then we're going to get into you expressing some of your gifts.
Yeah. I would like to talk about the kind of meditation that helps to eradicate suffering on the root level. Like there are a lot of people who know a form of meditation and maybe say a mantra and or have some sort of rite or ritual or idol worship. And that's all very, it's calming and can help one focus and might be a nice finger pointed in the right direction for the ultimate, end goal. And I use that carefully, but I like to practice vipassana, which is a Pali word for clear insight. And there are no rites or rituals or idol worship or mantras, because those things are very surface soothing when we get to the metaphysics of it all.
Right.
And but vipassana is just focused on air, on that one thing we all need to actually survive, that we have in common, and nobody can argue it. It's air. And when we give it full attention and observe it without reacting, to come out of habit patterns and blind reactions, and then also our sensations, once we've got the breath established, that leads to something that's actually helps to eradicate suffering on the root level. And it's a pathway that we can it's a practice.
Yeah. How long have you been practicing?
Since 2005, so 15 years.
Wow. And I know you've mentioned just when I see you out and about that you would meditate sometimes for hours. I know you've gone on retreats where you would meditate, for days. What's the result of practicing this for this long? What have you seen for you? What are the benefits?
When I was younger, I would really shy away from using the word enlightenment, but at some point we all have to answer to the question, to what end? To what end these podcasts? To what end your book? To what end, all of this self-help? To what end? And for me, the answer feels really clear, though, and I think it may be universal, and that is enlightenment. And I know that enlightenment's not supposed to be the goal, because it eventually arrives through the intention. I can't speak too much to that since I'm not there, but
Wait, what is enlightenment for you? Because I think especially today with self-betterment being, so popular and mainstream, the word enlightenment, I think, is passed around a lot, right? I think a lot of people wear that T-shirt. Also, that word woke, which I don't like. A lot of people.
It's a very not humble word.
Yeah, saying that they are woke. If someone announces that they are woke, that they're probably not. But what is your definition of enlightenment?
Well, I want to connect it first from the first question, which I strayed from a little bit in terms of what I've gotten out of it. is definitely coming out of habit patterns and blind reactions, and having an actual technique to get control of the storm, to bring my mind back to center, and then the way to investigate what's going on without reacting, and in order to cultivate uh, a wisdom. And I also say that carefully because, gosh, how audacious is that? But I'm not, it's still nonetheless that the channel just giving the gifts of these certain wisdoms that I now get to live by and apply to my ideal self, which I'm always striving for. So, that's what I've gotten out of it, is an awareness of that trajectory. And also there was a point, and then we can translate into the enlightenment aspect of it. There was a point 13 years into meditating when I had a capacity for a certain energy and was able to hold that energy for a for as long as I wanted, a sustainable joy, if you will. And because I'm human and the master of we're the masters of limitation, I eventually segued out of that subtly, with food or whatever else was on the table to that I came out of that. But I remember the first thought was, that was so easy.
Mm.
13 years? I was so I was so like, oh my god, I can't believe I mowed that path for 13 years. That was so easy, and now it's just accessible. I have a certain capacity for energy now that I didn't previously have, which is quite exciting. Um and so then into enlightenment, which again I can't speak of comprehensively because I'm not there, only in fleeting moments, if even that. And but what do I think enlightenment is?
I mean, okay, but wouldn't you say that if you are fully present, and I know like a stone skipping across the lake, we kind of tap into it in and out throughout the day. When you are fully present at that moment, I feel like you're enlightened. And then when you're not, you're not. I don't feel like it's like this path to, ringing this giant bell at the end, or a light switch. And then suddenly you've made it across the great divide and now you are
Mhm.
enlightened. I feel like we all have that when we are mindful and present and completely in the here and now, which by the way is very hard to do.
Yeah, or the easiest thing in the world to do.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing from you is all of this meditation, all the tracks that you've been laying for over a decade. It's created a speed bump and it's created distance from reacting to responding, from your thoughts, from all of that stuff. No.
Yeah, it is definitely less the involvement of caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
which may be involved today. Um, it has slowed down my reaction time, which has been a very useful thing for me, especially as someone who sort of defaults to a naturally intense energy that I'm not unaware of, but have always, yearned to pull back a little bit, because I find that when I do come from a place of stillness and calm, man, I am twice as effective as I already am. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things out of this practice.
Yeah, and we're about the same age. I think Buddy's older than me. I'm just kidding. You're not. But
Look at,
what? That's not true. What
oh, come
happens?
on, look at you. White
What?
people age like milk.
It's because you could grow facial hair and I can't. Um, when you get older, what you have on your side is just physiologically you slow down, right? I'm 47, so in the last, I would say, 5 years, I've felt um, just leverage from being older, just slowing down, naturally wanting to um, be more mindful,
Mhm.
how I want to spend my time, who I want to surround myself with, stuff like that. In your 20s, man, you just want everything instantly. And today I'm still crazy, but I'm a lot more calm naturally. And
Yeah.
I don't meditate as much as you do.
Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. That means we are all exactly the same age. Which my 23-year-old heart really enjoys, but this body, which is starting to do some weird shit, is I'm definitely having to get used to that. But I mean, you know it, and you know how we hang out, the friends we have. It's nothing. There's never a feeling of old. It's always a feeling of youth, and we take
Mm.
care of ourselves, and we just the way we go about this life is fun. And yeah, it's a strange dichotomy. Like I feel like my stepdad even having this conversation. Like when did I think I was gonna start making mundane conversation about being old? But it's real, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that the spirit doesn't dampen.
One of the things that I love about you, if I was to describe you in one word, and this is such a compliment. I shouldn't say that because once you announce it's a comp, it's like giving someone a gift and telling them that how much it costs and where I bought it. Okay, that's not. You are very curious.
Mm.
That's where you pull from. And I appreciate that because very few people pull from curiosity. And as you're speaking now, and he's smoking a marker and blowing fake smoke, uh, that kind of curiosity, almost childlike, but not immature. I'm not saying immature, but that kind of curiosity in today's world is rare. And I think that not just me, I think many people, what's contagious about you is the way that you go into moments is from curiosity and not judgment. And it's one of the things I really appreciate about you, and it
Thank
keeps you very present.
thank you, John. The answer to every magic trick is investigate. And I think that lends to my curiosity is just wanting to know the has always been wanting to know the answer to all this magic. And
Mhm.
excuse me, and then having come from such a heavy background, heavy entry point into this world, and growing up, I've just been driven to I've just been driven into a lighter way of being, and so that curiosity has led the way and helped to navigate also.
Yeah, let's put a bookmark there, and I want to talk about the little town you grew up in called Honda Civic.
No, I didn't grow up there. It's where I moved to when I sold all my shit to go on the road for poetry.
Because you, before I met you, had a life that included chickens and a ranch house and a partner. I believe also some geese, and very different than.
Oh, the geese guy.
Yeah,
The Colonel and Mrs. Marple. They were my two favorite pets of all time. I'm sorry to have favoritism, but the Colonel and Mrs. Marple were so fantastic. And I have like a 13-second clip with when you're showing this. You want to put it in there? Probably not. But yeah, I love those guys. I really did. And all that was actually, I I was in 2001 when I started going when I moved into the car and went on tour for a couple of years. In 2010 is when I got the partner and we built a life together in home and had all the animals. And then, but I've been on a perpetual tour for about 20 years.
yeah. What brought you to Los Angeles?
Frequent specific serendipity, which is
Mm,
also lent back to something we said earlier. But yeah, serendipity made me come in a moment of bliss, not unlike that which Eckhart Tolle refers to in The Power of Now. Um, and in fact, when it happened, there were the first couple thoughts in my head were because like bliss is it's a word bigger than yes. It's bliss. And
mm,
when it happened, uh, it would take too long to try and detail everything. But I remember going, oh, "Hey, bud, are you bipolar?" And I went, "I don't think so. I think this is the bliss that Eckhart was talking about." And the other voice went, "Well, his lasted 2 years. You're probably not going to last 2 years." And I remember the blissful voice going, "That's okay. Just be here with him, man. You have done so much work. Would you just enjoy yourself right now?" And so that actually ended up. So that actual state of bliss, it actually lasted about 12 hours for me. Um, and then
were you on a retreat when you had that
I was at a
experience?
Vipassana meditation course, and I was working vigilantly. I was
Yeah.
working day in and day out, 24 hours a day. I was working according to the technique, which is a rare thing, I think, for anybody who goes to those courses all over the world. I was just coming out of the two most devastating years of my life, and I knew it was either die or go. Like
Mm,
die or do this. Get here, get right, get present, make the choices. Make play to your strengths. Make the choices that you know are going to make your life better. This is we're done with the holding pattern, and I was desperate. I was gonna die, and I knew it, but I also knew in my heart that
wait, let me tighten the vice a little bit. Why were you in the trenches in quicksand? What was happening in your life at that time?
oh
Was it
God,
was it was it was it just a broken heart? What was it?
This is my new book, A Choir of Honest Killers.
Yes, which we're going to get to.
I had to write the book about it. Like
Mm,
it's like asking me why I broke up with somebody. I mean, it's not just one reason. It's like, God, where
mm,
do I start? Let's talk about the web. But essentially, it was because the love of my life and I really, or I'm sorry, one of the loves of my life. Meditation's the love of my life, but who I
mm.
thought was the love of my life at the time. We really loved each other. But we just couldn't find a way to play to each other's strengths.
Yeah,
It was hard and it was hurtful, and in the end, because his attachment style, it was avoidant, and that
right.
absolutely drives me bananas. um and I find it damaging. The way things ended got really crunchy. um and then I had gotten publicly shamed 45 minutes after I left. So
Um,
I mean, we had a life. We had a landscaping company and 5 acres and animals and my career, and we were doing all this with two people, which lent to the stress of it all. If you've ever had 5 acres, that's enough, and then add all that other stuff I just said. And so, when I ended up leaving, 45 minutes later, I had gotten an Airbnb I was in the bottom of somebody's home in Bainbridge Island in Washington, and I opened the computer and had was being publicly shamed for yeah, it's a whole new story. A really great learning experience, but was being publicly shamed
mhm.
in a really hardcore way, to the point of being, in the Seattle Stranger and CNN calling, and it
Right,
was
right.
it was hurtful.
Yeah.
And then 3 days later was diagnosed HIV positive, and then
Mm,
from there I started taking a new med that was basically putting me on an acid trip every night, and then I had to go on the road for 240 tour dates around the world by myself and get on stage
wow.
every night vulnerable. And so by the end of it, I was just
Invisible. You were invisible. So all that happened at once.
once. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 16 months long, and then the prolonged agony of, I mean, we're not even talking about the grief of losing
Right.
the person. I mean, adding all that stuff into it, and the community, and the shame, and
Hmm.
the disease, and the oh my God, and then the vulnerability. And I don't have a team. I did At that point, I didn't have a team, so
Right.
I've done my career myself. So the
Yeah.
booking, the routing, and getting on stage, it was all me. The merch, the so there was no one. It was I was gonna die. I knew it. There was a friend of mine through in Austin, through the End of the World tour party, and I remember showing up, and I just wanted to get on a gurney and not be there. I wanted to
Mm,
roll through the hospital to the more like I wanted to die. And everybody was so happy, and my friend, I'm just blessed with amazing friends, and I was I was a walking wide open wound, and so I went into
mm,
the Vipassana course, and I worked vigilantly, and a moment of bliss opened up, and from there, I maintained the 5 moral tenets that we agreed to while we're there. I ended up maintaining those for 7.5 months, which is no killing, no stealing, no lying, no intoxicants, and no sexual misconduct. And for those folks who find that to be a sex negative word, it's just not. It's just not distracting yourself, or anything that harms you, or distracts from your practice or harms
hmm.
someone else. Just don't do it. And so for me, sex at that point was damaging, because when all this was happening, it was my only reward system I had in place. And the gay community and our apps make it really easy. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I was becoming a sex addict. And so um, ended up maintaining the moral tenets for 7.5 months, like celibacy. Not even this guy. Like, we weren't even using him.
He's pointing to his right hand. Right hand, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's when I became the least distracted and most in love with my life that I've ever been.
Mm, wow. The most
And
in
it
love with
wasn't
your
even
life. That's a bold statement.
like, I see people who've got like 1,000 tinctures in their bathroom, and they're talking about all of these things, and they're so fucking miserable. So it's very
Yeah.
important for me when I express this, especially about this meditation and that kind of vigilance. It's a sincerity. I mean bliss when I say it right now. I mean to say that there is something worth staying for, especially when we find out that it's sustainable. And I think the collective conscious is the psychological evolution of us is growing into that awareness, and kids nowadays are just opening door after door after door for us to be able to risk more softness into a lighter way of being.
Man, every time I talk to you, I remind myself, okay, John, you got to start meditating more. And I do it, but I don't do it consistently, and I don't do it for any time longer than say 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I know you do it for hours. So if you're listening, this is proof or a um, true life story of the impact of meditation and breath. You know?
And I'm still, boy, do I have to show up. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
as easy. It's like it's not hours a day for me currently. It's 20 minutes, and but any amount I can. And then I'm also like when I'm laying in bed, I'm asking myself, I mean, I don't advise asking or doing anything when you're meditating, but
Mm-hmm.
there are moments if I become distracted that I'll just say, what else can I relax? And on a cellular level, I let
Mm-hmm.
my body and then my spirit and then my thoughts, I just let it all relax. And not only does it help me fall asleep, but it helps me grow that capacity for energy that I spoke of earlier, that it just allows more and more of that good stuff in.
So if you stop pedaling the bike, then it slows down, right? If you meaning that meditation is a practice, a lifestyle, it's threaded into your life, and if you stop doing it, you don't just ride on the momentum that you've been doing it,
Oh no. And especially
right?
for an addict like me, I mean, you're familiar outside of the podcast situation. You're familiar with life in general,
Mm-hmm.
as friends, and me being a pretty all or nothing guy. I
Yeah,
really
me
watch
too.
it. When I stop pedaling the bike, it's better for me if I just kind of slow the bike down.
Right, right.
Know that that's not the end of the world, and I can speed up whenever I want to get back to where I need to be.
So that's where we overlap a lot. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom's dad's not, was an alcoholic. There's addiction in my family, left and right, and I either go pedal hard, doing wheelies, taking jumps, um, or I don't pedal at all. It's very hard for me to stay in the middle. It's very hard for me to, go at a pace. I'm the muzzled greyhound, and so, I mean that's one of the reasons that drew me into CrossFit, and Buddy and I met in the gym many years ago. It was the craziness of it, the
Yeah,
ticking clock and the competition, and
you were
uh,
great at that. For those who don't know, I think you were 15th in the region in California.
why are you using past tense?
But because it's not currentness there. But
um,
we've both had some COVID meals.
yeah, that's the other place we overlap. Pastries.
Oh my God, let's go on about pastries.
Oh God, yeah. I used to be able to see my penis in the shower, but things have changed after after stepping away from CrossFit. But anyway, yeah, I'm an extremist, and so are you. And it's also something you have to be aware of. And I think that's why I got to meditate, man. I meditate on my motorcycle. I went for a hour and a half ride today into the Angeles Crest, and there's nothing more present for me except when I'm on my bike because I could die.
I want to interject to say that that's what I'm talking about when I say like some folks have a mantra, some folks have rites or rituals, and that stuff is great. And I don't mean this as an insult, more of a factoid. That's all very surface soothing things, and they point a finger in the right direction, like
Mm,
music, poetry, but it doesn't necessarily work to eradicate it at the root level, to uproot it. And that's where just the stillness and observation of breath really does come in handy.
yes, I think that's fair. Me riding my motorcycle and hugging canyons or hitting flow states while doing burpees,
Right.
that is not. I mean, yes, that could be a meditative state, right? You could also hit flow state, but that's not what Buddy's talking about when he's saying at the root level. So you're talking about going deeper. You're talking about
I'm talking about thoughts leads to feelings leads to actions, and those thoughts, those things that are compounded into cancers, those get dissolved when we observe them without
mm,
reacting, and we can just look at them in the same way that like anger is just lifetimes, millions and millions of little tiny sadnesses that have all condensed into an anger, and hate is just millions of tiny little angers that have condensed into hate. You know what I mean? And so when we get down to the cellular level and we can start dissolving these things, which we can only do uh, through breath
yeah.
and the observation of sensations without reacting, and to just investigate, those things begin to work themselves out. And listen, when I say to do those things, it's even a bit misguiding, because you don't do anything.
Right.
It's just the technique of observing breath, Don't do anything except observe the breath.
Not doing anything is probably one of the hardest things to
It is,
do.
or we'd all be in enlightenment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You are going to give us three poems today.
Oh, that was the yeah. So that was the request, and I was just so absorbed into talking right now that I forgot we were doing that. Now I just got, I haven't planned anything, Mister.
Well, that's the whole point, buddy. You can because we don't know what you're going to give us, so you can choose and pick. You could pull something out of your back pocket or something that you already,
Let's say we just do a couple. Three seems long because
yeah. Let's do two.
let's do two because one of them's a little bit. One of them's like 5 minutes long.
Oh, okay, okay, got it,
You
got it.
wanted me to give. You wanted me to give.
Pull the curtain back.
Pull the curtain back. Uh,
Oh, you think that's funny? But yeah, I've got three jokes. I've got three jokes. When people say how we met, I always say Craig's casual counter, and I've been using that since we met. And I probably said that 50,000 times. It lands every time. It gets laughs. So that's one of my jokes. And I think I have two more jokes that I recycle. I tell people that my jokes are in syndication. There's three, and I just rotate that shit.
oh well, you got to do what works, man. Um, so let's pull the curtain back first on this one.
Yep.
Um, and that's that. I did a short film. It's available on YouTube. When I say available, it's free on YouTube. Button Poetry released it. It's called Farmly,
Mm-hmm.
Farmly. There's no one in it who's not in my family. We won the USA Film Fest for short film, and then two Best of Texas awards. And in the film, you'll see that it's just all of my little cousins,
Yeah.
and and so they knew they were in a film. Um, but because it's about mental health and I'm not conservative with my language often, um, or the aggressive way with which I explore certain things, we couldn't show it to them.
Mm.
And so I told my family I would write. Excuse me. I told my family that I would. There's a hummingbird outside my window right now. I told my family that I would write um, a poem for the kids, and we would put some new music to it. And
Hummingbird on my bicep. That's fine.
hey,
Anyway, go. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh look, its wings flap when you flex.
That's not true. That's my Oprah arms. Anyway, go on.
Um, so yeah, we said we would. I told him I would do a poem for the kids, that we would score it with some music, and we would just collage all the B footage that they were running and playing in, and just say that we wrote this for them. And so this is the poem for my nephew and little cousins, where uh, um, when I'm with them, I understand that I wasn't wired to have children as an
Mm-hmm.
evolutionary protection.
Mm-hmm.
My heart from bursting. A piano stampede. Sweet barreling daylight, a gang of honey buttered role models. The molecular structure of miracles was never anything but the truth years ago, when they were your age. I told Joe and Avery Whipple that chickens were dumb. The next day, I told them a story about how Garth, our dead rooster, threw himself between a coyote and the coop to protect the hens. 10-year-old Joe looked mad at me, like a man of his word would, and said, "Hey, I thought you told us chickens were dumb." The day after that, we hiked up to the snow in the mountains. When Avery's dad asked if she wanted a snack, 8-year-old Avery grabbed a handful of snow cap, crammed it into her mouth, and yelled, "Dad, we're in the snack!" Don't you forget it, nephew, cousins, you bounce castle billionaires, you holy hymnal anthems, you choir of honest killers. It is okay to be a man like Joe. It is okay to be a woman like Avery, to be both at the same time. Some people will start each day by stepping out of their homes as if they were being forced to burn them, or to clean them, or to eat a wet lemon sandwich. Anything can happen, they will say, and they will say it sour, as if anything was a crabby apple babble cake with too much crabby babble. Those people will create sisterhoods and brotherhoods and neighborhoods out of locks and gates and a million silly reasons to own a gun that have nothing to do with feeding you. Don't worry. Help is on the way. You have always been on the way. Keep company with whom your happiness is never in question. Look at this world that is yours, a festival of party lights hanging all the way around the horizon line. You will be so glad You did not pass on the chance to stay strung up till dawn talking about life with your best friend, even if mom does make you roof the house hungover the very next morning with your uncles, the hammering home. Good God. Come to Uncle Buddy's when you're done. We'll talk so much shit on that woman. She'll smell your breath from where we're sitting underwater sipping tea in the pool out back, but at least she will know you made it to me safely. Love her for that. She would be eaten by the coyotes for you. She already has. You just don't know it yet. There will come a time when you can spend entire weeks in bed eating toast and answering to no one, I promise. Work, live for a living. That's different than leaving for a living. You've got to keep your patience. Let the otters photobomb every graduation, all tomorrow's parties, and the whales breaching. If the landscape ever feels too beautiful to bear, you got to remember that you can't sink your teeth into everything. Hand off your sink to the astronaut thoughts. Let them lift you higher. You fat cheek top of the mornings, balloonatics, love yourselves this much. As much as all the teachers who ever dreamed of teaching you back when they were still dreaming of becoming teachers, before the color red, before they stayed inside. Listen, y'all, outside of the earth itself, it may look like the shadow of a hang glider is the only thing that can move a mountain, but I've seen trains chugging through the side of the rock. I've seen who builds them. It's not a miracle. Miracles are just the constant recurring reminders of how much we forget to pay attention. Pay attention. Look at this world that is yours. Yours is the most important job of all, to remind us to notice everything. The words we fell in love with, like elastic and sober and able and God together and west and with. And you taught me a lot, honey, thank you. And I'm sorry are the gateway words to vulnerability. Vulnerability is what made every movie, sang every song, and wrote every poem that ever plugged a life back into itself. Don't be embarrassed to save the world. In Iceland, there are over 100 words for wind. Anything can happen. You definite green lights. Anything at all, except for achieving a level of Christmas sweater game as tight as mine, sweet child. That is not a skill that can be taught, but you may touch them, y'all. Be touched by this life, by the softest reasons we're in it, by the pink and the blue and the way this world is sometimes too much lonely. A bankruptcy of sky. The only way out is out. Lead us out. You are not alone. I will remind you as often as you need me to. It is my favorite thing to do. You extraordinary daylight cartoon dynamite. You bumbling tumble home jumbo wagon laugh lovers of the dinner bell ringing. You happily ever afters. You hippopotamus rex. Somewhere there's a there's a chicken in a snowsuit who made it out alive, asking the two most important questions anyone has ever asked. To what end? And why are you calling me names? Be a hand raised high in the answer. Be a head held high in the smoke. The enlightenment, the practice of home is who you are. The next time I get to be with you in November, the week we all go around the circle saying what it is we're thankful for. I can hardly wait to not shut up.
Man, um, Buddy Wakefield takes you into the air, and you don't know how high you are until you look down. Did you guys notice that we were just talking, and suddenly he was into his poem, and I had no idea that it was happening, and there we are, we're off and running. My favorite.
Here's why we have to do that, especially with you, John, because I know you well, sir, and your attention span is 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 not long, and so I was buying myself 30 seconds of you thinking we were still in conversation, so I had at least that much head start.
God, I love that trick.
And
Um,
also, COVID canceled the world tour, so I have not performed in so long. I think I forgot two really important connector lines. So if anything seemed disjointed, well,
no, it was great. My one of my favorite lines in there, and it's so simple yet so true and powerful, is um, live. I think you said live for a living.
Yeah, you got to keep
instead of leaving for a living.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Explain that. Live for a living instead of leaving for a living. I think most people leave for a living.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a note from to myself that I learned um, from 20 years of touring. So, my uh, second book, I'm sorry, was called Live for a Living. Um, and I was on tour for 20 years perpetually, and I felt like I was actually leaving for a living. And
Mm,
people were passing by with marriages and kids, and friends were, buying homes, and there was just so much of it that I really had to. I'm so glad to be stable in routine now and be checking out, intimacy issues and things that I think I avoided for a long time,
yeah.
unconsciously even. So it's not even like, I'm mad at myself for it. I just, there was a lot of time not spent on catching up in with some regards to where my peers were in those places.
Yeah, and for me, when I hear leaving for a living, I think about me disconnecting to myself. I think about me leaving myself, right? And to live for a living to me means to be present, but also build a better relationship with you. So
Yeah, and the
that lands for
California
me.
lottery also liked it because they stole it.
Did they live for a living?
Yeah, they did.
All right, you're going to do one more, and then we're going to talk about well where we can find you, but also some of the things that you're up to. And I know you text people. I get buddies text every day. It's kind of a highlight for me, and I love that also like your poems, the text they you could take anything that he texts you and it's relatable to you, and it may be very different than to someone else. So like it's almost like you throw a wide net by um, saying things that everyone can relate to on a in their own way, a certain level.
Thank you for noticing. It's by design. I
Yeah.
genuinely want people to, and what I love is that there's no real enigma to it, that none of it's afraid to say something specific or say something uh, that packs a punch. It's just how you receive that.
Hmm. Right, and that's really hard to do as a writer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so, I'm, if it's part of the deal that I need to read another poem, I'm happy to. I'd rather just talk with you and tell you what's going on.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, in 20 years of touring, I never released any full length concert online.
Hmm.
Excuse me. Um, and I did that 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago.
Oh wow.
And I think you were at that show with Vanessa,
Yeah.
uh, the LA show,
Yep, I was there.
live at the Hayworth. It's sold
Hmm.
out show. It's the last recorded show of any of the shows I've done in 20 years. It is one of my all time favorites that I felt at home. There was a lot of love in the room. I was at peace with my performance, and it was a good time. I love everything about it. But if it can be found like in 4 different places on my website.
Hmm.
You'll know when you see it. It's just A Choir of Honest Killers live in Los Angeles, and I'm really proud of that right now. I'm also like John said, I've got texts. I send myself texts 5 days a week, and like for people to include themselves on that. And I started a company. Oh, by the way, that's all BuddyWakefield.com. I started
Yep.
a company called Awful Good Writers. It's just awfulgoodwriters.com, and some of the best at what I do, and then writers from all genres are teaching month-long workshops so that you can be intimate with some of your favorite writers
Hmm.
for a month, and not just like a one-time deal. And it's for a month. It's pretty affordable. Um,
Yeah.
be spending time with to be spending time with folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially during this period right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I've, I think that's so. There's the book that's on there, and
Hmm.
and then I think tonight or tomorrow I'm releasing. I can't go home for Christmas, and I didn't know what I was gonna do because everybody I know is, and so I decided to party with other people's families. So it's called Manger Danger, the Buddy Elf sessions,
Oh
and I'm
wow.
just going in for 10 minutes with. This probably applies mostly to just fans of mine already, not people who don't know me. But I'm just going into fans, Zoom time, FaceTime, whatever, and hanging out with them and their loved ones for 10 minutes at a time, and
Oh, I love
talk to
that.
like a dozen families a day, and just whatever they're doing, Christmas carols or eating, and just hang out and chat with them. one woman already wrote in and just said her nephew's in a rough spot right now, and he just he could really use a boost and is a fan. And so, gosh, why not? Like, what a cool thing, eh?
Wait, so you just drop in into any family just via the internet and hop in, and for about 10 minutes, you're now in that circle, whatever they're doing during their celebration.
Well,
It's like Santa coming down the chimney almost, but
well, it's
you're
it's
coming
it's up
into.
to them. Yeah, I'm just gonna offer 10-minute slots from from
Mm.
Christmas Eve to New Year's Day, for fans who want to hang out, and then, like, give me as a white elephant gift, or like, whatever you want to do with me. I'm
Right,
basically
right. Oh, I love that idea.
take my clothes off.
That's amazing. I love it. Uh, cool. Well, buddy, I want to leave with this. Give me a revelation, right? A revelation that you've had um,
I have that.
about love,
Oh, awesome.
a revelation about life, and a revelation about friendship. Those are the three categories. And just based on your time on this planet, man, and I know you've had many, but what's one revelation about love?
Ask for what you need. Ask
Mm,
for what you want. I had the I had the illusion of a perfect relationship, the American dream in my head, as it applies to gay people, and I uh, I really thought, we would just finish each other's sentences and know each other, and I mean, there's some of that, but I was really in love, more than once, but I often had an expectation that they were gonna do the romantic thing and accommodate what I was already thinking,
mhm,
and I built up, you know, and with friends, I would be like, I just wish once he would lean over and kiss me. Oh,
mm.
like, I was with a real dude who didn't think to do those things.
Right, right, right. And
Like, I'm
also,
good at all.
but
I'm
also
good
an
at all.
avoidant.
Right, right. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm good at all five of the love languages. I'm just going to be straight up. I really
yeah.
love doing all of those things, and I keep
You're
ending up.
you're good at all five, but not great at any. I hear. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Well, um, but uh, but I end up with acts of service people, and
Mm,
that aren't huge on affection.
yeah.
And there's just that's just one of many examples of, you know, me having expectations that weren't met, but they couldn't meet them because I never said them. And so for some reason I thought saying them took away the magic of it. But what I've
Hmm.
learned is that asking for what you need really solves so much of that.
Yeah.
It's become a cliche that they can't read your mind, but nonetheless it is true. And you have to I had to let off the take some of the pressure off in that regard, and just
Hmm.
ask for what I need, and in fun ways ask for what I need. Like, just say it. Just
Yeah.
don't let it build up. That's ridiculous when it builds up. There's no way to say it naturally once it's built up. You just got to say it as it comes up. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I need. Here's what I love it when you do. And I have noticed in love that brings the most resolve quickly.
Yeah. I think acts of service should be a t-shirt. I would wear it just as a reminder to myself because that is not my love language. Um, what is your revelation so far about work life, about work career, about the arts? What's one revelation?
Trust the process. It
Ooh,
starts
yeah.
it starts with practice,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the middle it's practice, and uh, with there being no destination, it's practice,
Yeah.
and the quality just continues to amplify with that practice, and with quality, so much quality from other areas of life inevitably rise to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness, I'm so happy that I put it all, that I just kept practicing and practicing and practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, one
Trust the
revelation: trust the process. Absolutely. Uh, and that may look different for depending on what that looks like for you. But yeah, I totally agree with Buddy trusting the
Or,
process.
something really tangible, if I may, John, around a process to trust. I also go to anonymous meetings, and
Hmm.
earlier I spoke of that joyful period in my life after the bliss for 7.5 months, and I never had any labels, on the steps that I took to get there. When I started going to anonymous meetings years later, I realized in reading the 12 steps, holy shit, these are actually the steps I took to joy the first time.
Mm,
So when I say trust the process, for me, that often is a very clear cut, solid reference to trust those steps. Like if you're in a program, if you're not and you don't want to be, then maybe read those steps.
right. Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Trust the process can be, let's say you're following a fitness program. Let's say you're following whatever it is that you need, that's going to help you. Trust that instead of sometimes yourself.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
um,
Pete's got me on a workout plan. A mutual friend of John and I's,
yep.
who we both trust. Period. And and so just doing the process that Pete says in 2.5 weeks, I mean, I am crushing it. My
Yeah.
whole way of being feels better.
Mm, awesome. And finally, what's one revelation about friendship, specifically Korean friendship? No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh.
Friendship in general. What's one revelation?
Well, I happen to know you have white boy friends who feel comfortable making fun of or playing off of stereotypes. So I'm gonna leave that to them because I have no interest in your Korean friendship.
I
I just,
was, buddy, I was
oh,
joking.
no, I know,
Yeah, yeah.
but
That's, by the way, can I say that is my fault because I egg them on, I encourage them, which is residue from a 10-year-old Korean boy growing up in the 80s where there was a lot of racism. And the
yeah,
only way I could fit in with the quote unquote, the white kids, the cool kids, was to make fun of myself. And so I'm aware of that. And every time I do it,
you didn't have to try and sleep with girls. Oh, it was awful. It was just awful.
I would have rather done that.
I know that.
I tried that as well. It was easier just to make fun of myself in my race.
Oh,
But yeah, that's
it happens to us, doesn't it? You know,
yeah.
I let it slide so often because most of my friends are straight, you know, and I have just grown accustomed to making fun of myself. Anyway, I got that you were joking. I was
Yeah.
gonna end up somewhere funny with it, and then realized it wasn't sounding funny to you. But in
And
terms of
if you're listening to this, not watching this, Buddy's pulling his eyes back as he's saying this, which I don't think is that funny. I'm just kidding. Never mind. That's funny.
oh, I just got what you were saying.
Yeah.
That's awful because
It is awful.
you're leading me to say something eventually racist, and I'm not going in.
I know. I'm trying, man. I'm pulling the I'm anyway. It's a friendship test, and you know what? You've passed. All my other friends have failed many times.
They're awful people. I know them.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
um,
One revelation about friendships
yeah,
in
yeah.
general.
Listen, listen, and it's the one I know in my heart and my bones that I must practice the most. Is listen, listen. The density starts to transmute. The stillness starts to happen, and listen to me explaining it right now. Just fucking listen. I'm gonna shut up right there.
Mm, I love you. Guys, Buddy Wakefield, and you could find him at buddywakefield.com. And what a great place to end.
And
Listen.
thank you for letting me off the hook, John, without having to read all the poems today. I so much prefer talking to you.
You know what? I didn't want to force anything. I was grateful that we got that one, and this wasn't about a checklist, and so
Yeah.
that was great. And if people want more poetry or more of you, whether it's on their phone or in their family celebration, they know where to find you. So it's all good. I'm gonna get out of the way.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Yep. Thank you for listening or watching, and let's leave everyone with that. Listen.
I want to say hi to your crew, your listeners, because I've spent time with them now in a number of
Mm-hmm.
ways, and you have the coolest crew who listen to you, and they're also
Mm-hmm.
willing and open, and they are in it. They're in it with us in the thick of it, and trying to navigate it is in the kindest, most loving ways possible. And I just want to shout out to everybody in there.
Oh, thanks, man. They love you. As do I. All right, buddy. Be well. Guys, thank you for hanging out with us.